Thursday, the 4th of April. Hello, listener, and join me as I welcome to this Totally Football show, Duncan Alexander.
Hello, James.
Welcome back, Duncan. Welcome back, Natalie Gedra of Sky Sports.
Oi, James.
Tudo bom?
Tudo bem.
And Carl Anka. Welcome back, Carl Anka.
Ahoy, James.
You're down in the big town. Yeah, you're off to Stamford Bridge later on.
I am indeed, in the Mason Mount extravaganza.
Oh, yeah, of course. Because he plays for Man United now, is that right?
Allegedly.
Figures show. Yeah. Magnificent. Well, that'll be an interesting game, one way or another. That's one of the holdover fixtures from the midweek round, which we're going to be discussing in depth. Natalie, you well? What have you been up to?
Yes, I've been good. Just watching the action from home midweek and last weekend. Spurs, Luton, next weekend, Newcastle, Fulham. So, yeah, good.
Ooh, are you going there for Rodrigo Muniz?
Rodrigo Muniz, yes, for him as well, definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. No, they need their goals with him after this midweek's performance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
But him, what a revelation. Perhaps you can shed some light on his background. Duncan, are you off to Wembley this weekend? Because Wickham are going to be there in the EFL Trophy Final.
The Sherpa Van Super.
Is that what it's called?
Well, it used to be. It's had many sponsors. Auto Windscreen.
Yeah.
Papa
Johnson's
John's,
Paint.
Johnson's Paint.
Where
Associate
are we now?
Members Cup, I like to call it.
Nice.
But yeah, it's the Bristol Street Motors Trophy right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I'll be there, yeah. A chance for some proper silverware for the first time since 1993. So it's been a while. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Meantime, Premier League busy with Tuesday and Wednesday night football. Thursday still to come. There's Liverpool against Sheffield United and that Chelsea-Man United game. But meantime, Arsenal are back on top of the league after their 2-0 victory over Luton, which Duncan attended. For now, Liverpool's second, a point behind and level with Man City, who beat Aston Villa 4-1 with a Phil Foden hat-trick. Remarkably, that was City's first win of the season against a top 5 side. Ooh. Elsewhere in the midweek round, Villa's top 4 rivals Spurs drew 1-1 at West Ham. Bournemouth beat Palace 1-0 down the bottom. Forest leaped past Luton out of the bottom 3 with a 3-1 victory over Fulham. Brentford Brighton finished 0-0. Burnley made it 4 games unbeaten when they drew 1-1 with Wolves. And Everton too won a late point with a 1-1 at Newcastle. Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the 88th minute scoring his first goal since October. Well, I got a lot of questions about that bit of South American commentary, Natalie.
I know.
We'll come to you later on.
Exciting.
When we do the Newcastle-Everton game. But of course we begin with that ever so exciting top 3 title race. Just 1 point apart while we wait for Liverpool against the Blades. Arsenal 2-0 winners against Luton. Man City with the tougher looking fixture rediscovering their verve after Sunday's draw and then some with this 4-1 win over Aston Villa. Pep dropping the kind of League 2 players and bingo, you get a good performance. Vintage City?
Yes. Far more fluid up front, far less predictable in the final third. Rodri, Phil Foden will get the plaudits, but this was a Rodri game. And the Premier League goes through him, as far as I'm concerned. You have to stop him if you have any chance of winning it.
Is he the player of the season, Carl? Because that's the chat.
I'm not sure. So FWA voting started April 1st, and it's allowed. You can wait until the end of April to cast your vote. I've got an idea of who I want to vote for, but again, I mean, this game has now got me tinkering in my ideas now as well.
Because of Phil Foden or because of the Rodri?
Both. But again, we could have a game against Sheffield United, and then I'll start looking at Alexis or Virgil or someone else.
Yeah, but that's the thing with player of the season. You're always expecting to see who's gonna win the league, but in this case, maybe it won't be necessarily the team who wins the league. If Liverpool or if Arsenal, because there is a case for Rodri and for Foden as well. I'm a huge Rodri fan.
Okay.
I spoke to him actually last week. I had a one-on-one with him.
Yeah?
And he's such an interesting player and an interesting personality as well. He has a degree in business and economics.
Does he?
Yes, and he took this degree while he was playing for Villarreal and then Atletico Madrid and then City. It took him 7 years to finish it. Yes, because he thought it was so important for him to study because he doesn't know what's going to happen with his life.
Right.
So and he just seems he's such a smart guy on and off the pitch, because on the pitch, and if you look at his season now, the way he moves with and without the ball is just so impressive. And everybody talks about the tempo, and it must be a real pressure to be a central midfielder under Pep Guardiola, because he makes it very clear, okay, this is the most important position on the pitch. And you know what? I was doing this a while ago, and I was doing well. And I even asked him about that. Did you see clips of Pep playing? And he said, yeah, I saw some clips, but he also makes it very clear that the position really changed and evolved throughout the years. So he demands even more from Rodri because of that. He's such an interesting player. He's such a key player in the way they play.
Is he a nice guy, Natalie?
He's a really nice guy.
You always say
Nice
that.
guys don't
Maybe
come
you're the
first.
nice person, because everybody you talk to is always nice.
Maybe
Even
maybe
Rodri.
not. Yes, no, but he's
He's
quite
so
lovely.
nice. He gave us a title race because obviously him being suspended
Of
in
course,
Luton
yeah.
saw City implode, and that's why we've got this lovely three-way title race. So
Right.
he is a nice guy.
And he hasn't lost a match in over a year now. This is
Still.
bizarre, honestly. The club and country, it's ridiculous.
His assist for Foden second. Ooh, woof.
Yes. And scoring 8 goals this season.
Yeah.
So yes, he's being more vertical as well. He just keeps improving.
Yeah, I mean, you joked about, Pep not playing Haaland and De Bruyne, but it's kind of true. Like, I think Alvarez turns basically City into what they were a couple of years ago, and De Bruyne has not looked great since he came back.
There's an obvious physical decline in De Bruyne. There's only so
He's
many.
older than Jed and Shaqiri, let's
Yes,
not forget.
Kevin De Bruyne is going through a understandable physical decline. There's only so many hamstring injuries you can come back from and play in the same way. And Phil Foden is given more responsibility in the centre of the park, and he is becoming the final third player that not all of us thought he would. I think there was always this idea that he was going to succeed David Silva and play deeper, but the pace at which he plays in the final third is very, very pleasing. He's got very good progressive one-touch play, and this hat-trick is just a trio of fantastic sweeping finishes in the corner.
Okay, Duncan, you'll be most excited about the fact that we had a direct free kick scored in this game.
Yeah, rare. Phil
Although
Foden's
Otis-
first one.
Yeah. First one, yeah. And it owed a certain amount, people felt, to the Aston Villa wall.
Yeah, I mean, Zaniolo was having a look around the Etihad, wasn't he? So, but yeah, I mean, it's a sort of finish that's in decline. So yeah. But I mean, it kind of, to Carl's point, it's Phil Foden is becoming the sort of player that can do everything these days. And if you look at the top scorers list this season, you've got Jared Bowen on 15, Foden on 14, Palmer and Saka on 13. I mean, that's some decent options for Mr. Southgate.
Foden's not taking penalties, to my knowledge. I can't recall him taking a penalty as well. So he's a great player. I'm still not sure where he fits in the strongest starting 11 for England, but that's a problem we can deal with in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and the thing is, he definitely goes to the Pep Guardiola DVD of players he transformed, because there is a case of like Foden was always this raw talent. He was always this player that everybody expected a lot. But the way he transformed his game is quite impressive. It's the finishing and the way he's comfortable just finding those pockets. And also, I think he became a refined player. Like, his game is very refined. I think that's a good word to define him, because he can offer so much. He can finish. His vision of the game really developed. It's impressive. So this is what really blows my mind with Phil Foden.
And I think there's a good comparison there with, I know people said this a lot, but what Mourinho did with Joe Cole, he made him a better player, but he kind of took away something from him. Whereas I think what Pep's done with Foden is keep the kind of magic, but also make him a very effective player. So.
I like Villa's goal as well, for what it's worth.
It was a nice goal, yeah.
It was a nice goal. But there you go. So City looking good again, but still 2 places back in that title race. Arsenal top. You went to Arsenal, to the Emirates, Duncan, to see the Gunners see off Luton with goals from Odegaard and OG. What did you think?
It was exactly what Arsenal needed, a sort of functional 2-0 win. They went 2-0 up at half-time, were able to rest players before the game. Smith Rowe and Reece Nelson came in. I thought Smith Rowe in particular was great. really kind of seized that opportunity. But I mean, I think they kept Havertz in the team, kept Odegaard, kept the central defence. I think that's the spine. And you know, Odegaard's goal. There's not many players better at letting a ball run across him and hitting it than. He kind of never hits it over, so he might go wide this occasion. He'll see it saved, but he just drills it so
His
well.
goal catalogue is very much the same finish.
Yeah.
From a variety of different areas. He's so good at that little pullback.
Yeah.
Good.
And I mean, Luton didn't really offer anything.
Bailey to score for the first time in 19 Premier League matches, although Arsenal will do that to you, as City found out at the weekend. They're now 10 games without a victory, the Hatters. Have dropped back into the bottom three with this result. They've got a big game coming up on Saturday at home to Bournemouth. Oh, my goodness, that's the game that 3 weeks ago they were 3-0 up in and ended up losing 4-3.
I really feel for Luton because, that was probably the biggest heartbreak of their season. But they have Bournemouth, then they have Man City. And we keep hearing for weeks now that Luton will be fine because they're playing good football, because they know how to pressure all types of opponents, because they have their way of playing that is very direct. And it's very exciting. I really enjoy, from a neutral perspective, I really enjoy watching Luton play. But they're having a really challenging run of opponents, and they can't find the results, and they can't. They're struggling with defending. They just keep leaking goals.
Struggling with injuries as well, of course.
Yes, no, a
I think
long list of injuries.
That's the big thing with Luton.
Definitely.
Is that the style of play, very exciting, and can work on their day, but the amount of injuries they've had now, it just takes 2 rungs off their potential ladder.
And key players.
Yeah. I mean, even last night, even Ross Barkley, who's been playing well for them, he looked to his age. I'd
Tired.
say. He was getting rings rung around him, which is unsurprising, because he probably didn't factor having to play every week.
Yeah.
So after the weekend, I believe the statistic was half of Luton's games have been hinged on goals scored after the 80th minute. This is a team that is in an injury crisis, can run out of puff before the 90th minute, and it's a real coin toss now if they can stay up.
We've seen teams, promoted teams before, like Hull and Blackpool, who come up and then they have this real fade in the second half of the season. And sometimes with Hull, that first season, they just stayed up, and Blackpool went down. And Luton never quite got to that point, but they did look around Christmas time like they were going to sort of improve their way to. I mean, they still have a chance because Everton have still got a points deduction possibly coming.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing with Luton, because they developed their game throughout the season. And in a way, if they had their fit players, you could really see them staying in the Premier League. But now we'll have to wait.
I do think they're set up to come straight back up. They kind of have bought an elite championship football team. So, yeah, I think the future's still bright.
They are 3 points of safety at the moment. Some tough games coming up. Bournemouth at the weekend. Then they're away to Man City the following week. They've got Brentford at home, Wolves away, Everton at home. Big game, that one. A trip to West Ham, and they finish off at home to Fulham. Arsenal this weekend go to Brighton as the title race continues, while City take on Crystal Palace, who got beaten 1-0 by Bournemouth on Tuesday. Palace, do you remember what happened when they went to the Etihad in the reverse fixture of this with Man City? They were 1-0. They were 2-0 down with a quarter of an hour to go, and they came back, scored with 2 shots on target. This was under Roy Hodgson, remember?
City Palace is always a fixture,
They are.
Things happen.
They're Pep Guardiola's bogey team.
No.
They are, yeah.
What are the numbers behind that assertion?
Well, they dropped points against. I mean, even in the season, the all or nothing.
Right.
What was that? 17-18 season. The Amazon had to try and make some drama, and City dropping points at Selhurst Park was deemed to be, bad.
Right.
Turned out they won the league by 48 points or something. So it wasn't. But yeah, there was the Andros Townsend goal.
Yes, at the Etihad.
Palace always have at least one good pacey winger, which always gives Pep Guardiola the heebie-jeebies.
Right, and I'm hearing that Michael Olise might be back for this game, which would be big.
Well, yeah, I mean, City, I'm sure, would like to own that player. So
nice. All right, well, it is such an exciting title race, and it looks set to continue with fine margins. Next up, we're going to move on to some of the other battles that took place midweek. Listen, it's the 4th of April as we sit here at Chidden and at Shatton. On this day, 4th of April. There was the joint biggest win in English top flight history. Yes. What's the biggest win in Brazilian top flight history?
Oh, James, why are you doing this?
I don't know. I was wondering if there's been some crazy carioca. I don't know.
Yeah.
No? Okay.
Want me to Google it?
No, you can do. If you like, I'm gonna read out the England's top. Do you know this one, Duncan? By the way,
Is it the Darwen?
it is West Brom 12, Darwen 0. That took place on the 4th of April, 1892. Actually, that took back. It was West Brom 12, Darwen 0, which took place on the 4th of April, 92. That's 1892. That scoreline
Football didn't start in 1892, as they say.
Indeed not. That scoreline was later matched by Nottingham Forest when they beat Leicester. Leicester Foss. Leicester Foss. 12-0. When was that, Duncan? 1909 is the answer.
Okay, so so the match in Brazilian football with the highest amount of goals scored.
Yep.
Yes. So it was Corinthians 10. Yes. Tiradentes, Piauí's very small club, won.
Oh.
Yeah, in 1983.
That's the biggest winning margin?
10-1. Yes,
Really?
apparently
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still. Duncan, who were Darwen and who are Leicester Foss?
Leicester Foss became Leicester.
Okay.
It's just one of those, teams adjust their names.
Okay.
Swansea Town becoming Swansea City, etc., and so on. Exciting times. Darwen were one of the batch of original kind of because Lancashire basically dominated early football.
Right.
There was like New Brighton as well, which was up north of Liverpool.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Huh.
Confusing, right?
Right.
Like
yeah.
Leeds, Castle being in Kent. It's just make your minds up. Map, people. But yeah, Darwen didn't last long.
Did they not?
No.
So they were known as the Salmoners, I read, because they wore salmon pink kit. I don't know why that's not a thing anymore.
Well, Everton have done it as an away kit a few times.
Salmon pink?
Yeah.
It's
Really?
It's the new fashion. It's big with Gen Z. Salmon pink.
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Anyway, Premier League, down the bottom end, what happened this midweek? Luton lost, as we mentioned. Everton drew and Burnley did too. So Nottingham Forest 3-1 victory against Fulham felt like a very big deal indeed. It saw Forest leaping out of the bottom three, powered by Morgan Gibbs-White, principally. What a scintillating first half in particular he had.
Oh, it's tremendous. He's got such a good pass with the outside of his right foot, and that was on the show 2 or 3 times. Yeah, what a player! He's the celestial body across which all of Forest's attackings revolve around.
They have a quality squad, Forest. Gibbs-White, he's having the season of his life. But if you look at the quartet that played against Fulham, Chris Wood having a great season. You have Elanga, you have Hudson-Odoi, and you have Gibbs-White. So, and like the first 45 minutes were probably the best 45 minutes from Forest season. They played really well. But then again, there's Fulham and what they didn't do and how inconsistent they've been this season. I really feel for Fulham fans at times.
I mean, they've had a good season.
They've had a good season, but you never know what to expect. So in this sense, I feel for them because they have been very, very inconsistent. Like they have this very clever displays, tactically perfect, like when they faced Brighton at Craven Cottage. It was so impressive. And they overcame big problems like Mitrovic leaving and injuries and how Jimenez getting injured as well. So they produced these great moments where you look at that team, and I really like Marco Silva, and you look at that team and think, okay, Fulham, what a strong team, they can really play football. But then they play against Forest and they make a triple substitution at minute 32 because they can't keep the ball and keep giving counter-attacks. It's hard to figure out.
Why do you think that is? With Brighton, for example, the kind of conventional wisdom is that if things go their way, they'll win big, and if they don't, then De Zerbi doesn't really know how to change things, so they'll lose big. But with Fulham, Silva doesn't come across as that kind of tactically one-dimensional.
Definitely
Is it
not.
the fact there's no pressure if you're playing for Fulham because they're comfortably mid-table and the fans are very polite?
Well, you might not get a spot for the swimming pool on the roof.
I suppose,
Yeah, perform.
I think this is what happens when you've got a slightly older squad. You know, the average age is 27. Of that, the starting 11 against Forest. Slightly older, so sometimes, you know, too many games in a row, you can run out of puff.
Right.
They felt distinctly flat playing against Forest,
we-
and they do seem to be a little bit better against teams.
Leave them a bit of space.
That's what I want to say. But also, I mean, Forest just did to Fulham what Fulham normally do to the bigger teams.
Right.
And I think
They're-
that's what the issue arose from here.
Yeah, their away form is really bad. Just one win in 15 matches.
Against Manchester United in the 96th minute.
And it's quite intriguing because it is an ongoing work from
Right.
Marco Silva. You know, he's been there and he knows these players. So I just really find it hard to figure out their lack of consistency.
I think as a society, we've also forgotten what it's like to have a mid-table season. Like, it's almost like
That's a good
everyone
point.
has to be in form or
Yeah.
going down. It's like, just...
Sometimes you're good, sometimes you're bad.
Yeah.
It's also that thing of if Fulham do get a good player, that good player is going to be there for 18 months.
João
How long-
Palhinha is
Yeah, they're going to
is
be there
going.
for 18 months or so before someone starts sniffing.
How
So
long
therefore,
will Rodrigo Muniz be there?
Yeah, that's a good one because he had an interesting trajectory in Fulham.
Okay,
You know,
I know nothing about him apart from the fact that
really?
he is hotter than hot right now in Premier League goal scoring terms.
Okay, so join in for the Rodrigo Muniz.
Okay, pull up a chair.
Section, yes,
Yeah.
of the show. So he played for Flamengo, he played for Curitiba. He was a good player. Then he left for Fulham when they were still at the Championship.
Okay.
And he really struggled with injuries and he didn't have a lot of playing time. But then when he got a run recently, and then they had Raul Jimenez, and we were thinking, okay, he's never gonna get minutes. And then he just got a good run, felt confident, and he's there. He's just scoring goals, and he's exceeding expectations, even for Brazilians who saw him play back in Brazil.
Is he big news back in Brazil, what he's doing there? Kind of goals he scored like at the weekend?
It is news. I wouldn't say no. It's not like people are not noticing him.
Right.
But it's not like there is a big appeal for him to be in the national team. So this would be big news. Like, oh, Rodrigo Muniz should be with the Brazilian national team. Maybe because his good run just started.
Yeah.
And
And also
he-
you have some other players,
I was gonna
believe.
say, yeah, we
Yeah.
have a few good players
Right.
up front. Yeah. But
All
it's a nice story. It's a really
Okay.
good story.
Have you spoken to him?
Yes,
Is he nice?
he's lovely,
No.
James.
Has he got a business degree?
He doesn't. No. Yeah, but he's quite nice.
Okay, how old is he?
22?
Is he
Yeah, he's
22? Okay.
He also survived Marco Silva's power move in the first half, which was the 33rd minute triple sub.
Yeah, Natalie was
I
referencing
don't mind it. I don't mind it. I don't.
What, a triple sub?
A big triple sub very, very early on. Yeah,
Second earliest
You're
in
talking
Premier
about your
League history.
catering needs.
Truly.
Yeah.
Second earliest in Premier League history that a team has made 3 subs.
Is that right, Duncan?
So, you know.
Well, I, for one, I'm curious as to what the earliest was.
It was, drum roll.
Jose Mourinho?
No, he made 2 at Fulham.
Okay.
Which was, again, a similarly angry... the earliest was Sunderland. Stoke against Sunderland in February 2009. I don't remember it, and I'm pretty sure you don't either.
Tony Pulis.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. Tony Pulis. Ooh, elsewhere in the Premier League midweek, Brentford are now 6 points clear of the drop with that 0-0 draw they had with Brighton. Everton have moved to 4 points above the bottom 3, although this week, etc., etc. With that late point at Newcastle, earns for an 88th minute penalty from Dominic Calvert-Lewin, which gives us a chance to play this again. So, Natalie, that
Yes.
was how Argentinian commentary serenaded Dominic Calvert-Lewin's return to goal scoring for the viewers there. And you're not Argentinian, but you are from South America. So can you
Yes.
explain in any way why they would choose to... Is Dominic Calvert-Lewin regarded as a kind of... I don't know, a Shea figure there? Is there some kind of
No.
the resistance or what?
No, I think it's more down to the context of him not scoring for a very long
But
time.
why Bella Ciao, which is it's a song really redolent of kind of partisan and resistance,
It's
isn't it?
anti-fascist song popular in Italy.
Yeah. Well, the last time I've heard it in a football context would be Livorno used to sing it when Milan came, because Livorno famously the left wing ultra kind of group. So when Milan would come, they would sing Berlusconi Pezza di Merda, and then they would sing Bella Ciao, because that's the kind of the song of the left wing. Supposedly it was the big partisan song when they were fighting the fascists, although there's a lot of doubt about whether that was actually the case. But anyway, that's the symbolism of it. So I was just curious why he would go with this Italian song back in the day for Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know if he related with the word ciao, that means bye.
Yeah.
And then like he's scoring, so his bad run is going away. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
there might be a kind of nunc dimittis type moment, because the words of Bella Ciao is basically, if I die as a patriot or partisan, then Bella Ciao, like, you know, I think it's a kind of like, fine, that's a life well lived. So maybe that's what he was saying. I have now seen Dominic Calvert-Lewin find the net again.
Yes, yes, exactly. And I think it's important as well to point out that not all South American commentators sing.
Okay.
This is very much. Yeah. This is Manuel Pons.
Yes.
And he's known for singing.
Oh, is he?
Yes.
What else does he sing?
He did Eye of the Tiger to Paul Scholes song. Gold, there's skulls, which is again,
is that
very
Eye of the
catchy.
Tiger?
Yeah.
Dun.
Gold, there's skulls. Gold, there's skulls.
So when you're listening to games in England, do you find the commentary really parochial because nobody ever sings?
I was talking to producer Charlie that me and all my South American friends, it took us time to get used to the fact that here you don't scream goal.
Some of them do. But
no, not in the South American way. It's like,
right.
goal, very long goal, and
Yeah.
a long moment for the commentator, and he's just describing and pouring out emotions and, you know, like exaggerating everything, and the tone of voice changes. And it took us time to get used to the fact that it's
must
like,
be really...
go, what a strike, blah, 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 yes.
Well,
so, yes, and it's
that.
very, it's very,
go.
it is very different.
The closest the closer we come to an English commentator singing, I think, would be this. Charlie will hopefully play in there, chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chim. Goal from Jonathan Pearce there. Yeah, interesting. All right.
Yeah, I quite like it. Yeah.
But then it's nice. It's one of the nice things when things are different in different places.
Yes.
You know.
Definitely.
Hey, good. Anyway, so that was Newcastle. Was that a deserved point for Everton? It came in a pretty catastrophic fashion for the home side.
That's a Paul Dummett clanger to give away the penalty. And this Everton team's looking a little bit stale now. It's getting a bit spooky.
Do you reckon?
For them. 4
points clear of the drop. And it had looked like being a really bad night for them, with them behind for much of the game and Forest winning and Burnley were winning as well. Although that ended up a draw. What's the word on this week? Is there PSR inbound?
It
or is it next
might
week?
Be this week, could be next week.
Right.
Yeah, but it's got to come fairly soon, because then you obviously have the appeal process, and then the old end of season and fixture release day and all that stuff. So,
it was good they got the point.
I mean, to Carl's point, that for so long it's been they're underperforming their numbers, they'll come good, but sometimes teams just underperform their numbers, and you know, this is their longest run without a win since 1957.
1957, 13 games. Have they ever gone 14 games without a win, Duncan?
I'm sure they have at some point. And it may happen again this week.
Well, okay, so Saturday they've got what looks like a really big game down the bottom end, because they're up against Burnley, who are 3 places below them in 19th, 7 points behind the Toffees, although asterisk, etc. and so on. Burnley, the numbers suggest, are beginning to turn things around. I don't know if that's the case. Wiser heads than me will have a better perspective on this, but it is now 4 games unbeaten for the Clarets. The latest non-defeat coming in the 1-1 draw against Wolves.
Burnley, it does really feel like Company probably should have changed his keepers earlier. That is one of the big noticeable changes about how Burnley are playing, is they've got a more experienced goalkeeper and the defence is slightly calmer. In terms of up front, do they have enough goals in them? Do they have the creativity? Not quite sure.
Okay.
Maybe I think they might have just run out of time for this upturn in form.
Yeah, he wasn't happy with the referee again.
Vincent Kompany?
Yes, because
All smiles, Vincent Kompany.
yeah.
I loved his post-game quote. He said, "Until the last minute, I don't conceive a single moment when we won't stop fighting."
Oh, that's a good one.
Well, kind of worrying, no? There's not a single moment when they won't stop fighting? I don't know. Anyway, sorry.
So apparently Wolves scored from a fall that wasn't really a fall.
Right.
You know, it was arguable, and he was very unhappy with that, especially because they've had the Chelsea complaints as well with the penalty. So yeah, but yeah, things are looking complicated.
6 points from safety. They take on Everton this weekend. Everton have actually beaten Burnley twice already this season. 2-0 at Turf Moor just before Christmas. Actually, that was the last time they beat anyone. They also beat them in the League Cup. Yeah, back in November.
I mean, if Burnley did win this game, then maybe.
Yeah, no, because there was a combination of results that would leave them just 1 point off the relegation zone, just 1 point
What,
in.
midweek?
Yes, just 1 point inside the relegation zone. So if they won and Forest had lost, then things could have really improved for them. So, but none of that happened.
There's a lot of twists and turns still to come, as I heard.
Burnley's still in this. They've still got to go to etc.
Excellent. Okay, what else happened midweek? Bournemouth beat Crystal Palace 1-0. Justin Cliver with the only goal in that game. Spurs on Tuesday 1-1 the result there when they from their trip to the London Stadium to take on West Ham. Both goals coming in the opening 20 minutes. Did that game kind of fizzle out?
A little bit. I'm really happy for Brennan Johnson. He's just sort of there's a wonderful interview with him in GQ where he just talks about his love of skateboarding.
Oh yeah.
So he was the skateboard kid as a teenager, but obviously gets to a certain point and his dad's like, well, you got to put them down.
Right.
So there's a little photograph of him in his apartment, and he's got all these fantastic skateboard decks that he still collects, but obviously cannot use.
Can't use. I bet it's in his contract now.
Probably, most likely. The old Manuel Neuer clause.
Yeah.
Or supposed clause.
So did Manuel Neuer have a clause? Because I think everyone was surprised that he was allowed to go skiing.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed a maverick move, but
well, maverick individual, of course.
There you go.
But anyway, fascinating insight there.
fascinating. The Spurs have gone from Van der Vaart to Vans in a cart.
Brilliant.
We'll get that one editing. We'll get that one editing. I think Johnson and the width he is offering this Spurs team has been really important, especially at a time when Kulusevski and James Maddison have looked a little off colour.
I think he's been helped by Werner as well, because they both kind of offer similar, and it kind of, you can't mark up both of them at the same. Well, you can.
I wonder what Timo Werner's off-field interest is. You know, we've had business management, skateboarding.
Pogo stick.
I don't
Feels
know.
like a pogo sticker to me.
You reckon?
Yeah, I could see him on a pogo stick.
Okay.
There was a urban legend, a rumor going around about Xherdan Shaqiri to bring him back up again.
Oh yeah.
As to why he had such strong calves. So the story going back to his time in Switzerland was he got gifted a pogo stick.
Seriously?
As a child.
Okay.
He either got gifted a pogo stick or he wasn't gifted a pogo stick. So for a while he just jumped around the place as if he had one.
Maybe all the other kids had one, and to keep up,
yeah,
he had to.
Yeah, and that was why his calves were so big. I was researching to do an interview with him before the 2018 World Cup, and before the interview started, I went, is any of this true? And he raised his eyebrow and just shook his head, going, "No, that's a ridiculous story. That's been following me around for a while."
Oh, it's a real Huckleberry Finn move.
So no,
he set us up with a lovely story, and then just went, "Yeah, none of that was true."
No, that's true.
Excellent. All right, I think that was all the games that have happened so far.
Can I give a little shout out to Alexander Isak?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Another goal for Newcastle. 5 in a row. Do you know the last Newcastle player to score 5 home games in a row?
Was it Alan Shearer or something?
Nope.
Yeah.
That was Gouffran.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in a row. I completely forgot he played for Newcastle.
Well, indeed.
And a little purple patch. Isak's in fantastic form.
15 goals this Premier League season. And he had an injury during the season. So it's quite impressive. And there are a lot of rumors that he might be one of those players that Newcastle is going to have trouble holding on to.
Right.
Because, interest from other clubs, maybe Arsenal, but just only rumors. And
he said he's very happy and he very much enjoys he used the word project. He said he remains that he loves the project. I think he has the potential to be one of the best strikers in the Premier League, if not in Europe, and it's just a case of staying fit.
Yeah, which is a problem at Newcastle because yes, we were talking about injuries. They don't have Trippier, they don't have Tino Livramento, and they don't have Almiron. They looked really stretched since December, really, but especially now against Everton, because they had to play these players who were out for a long part of the season, like Kraft, Elliot Anderson, Lewis Hall, and Harvey Barnes. Of course, he just came back from injury, but he's been out for a while, so of course that impacts the way the team plays. Yeah, it's been a stretch for Newcastle with the injuries.
Okay, this Saturday they're going to be at Craven Cottage in the match you'll be attending. Next up, let's talk a little bit about what's on the way this weekend in the Premier League. Saturday lunchtime, it begins with Crystal Palace, Man City. At 3, Wolves take on West Ham. Everton are up against Burnley. Aston Villa get a visit from Brentford. Fulham match up with Newcastle. And for Luton Town, it's Bournemouth. At 5:30, Brighton Arsenal. And then there's a frankly weird-looking Sunday schedule. 3:30, the big one, Man United Liverpool. 5:30 on Sunday, Sheffield United Chelsea. 6 p.m, Spurs Nottingham Forest. Duncan, I'm no scholar of kickoff times, but that feels unprecedented.
Well, there's been 3 Sunday 5:30s before.
Okay.
But that was on Boxing Day, which I always think doesn't count. It's just a random day. So you can maybe count this as the first time. And there's been one Sunday 6 o'clock ever.
Okay.
Sheffield United away at Man City on the 29th of December 2019.
2019.
So it is rare, yeah.
But this is because of the rail strike, the industrial action, yeah.
Yeah, although I would argue moving a fixture to 6 o'clock on a Sunday doesn't necessarily help with that.
Right.
That world.
Okay.
It's
and
messy.
plays havoc with songs of praise viewing and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Songs of Praise has moved earlier up in this BBC
Really?
schedule, I believe.
Oops.
because on police advice.
That's very good.
Yeah. All right, Man United taking on Liverpool on Sunday at 3:30. Neither team has played their midweek fixture yet. Man United this evening at Chelsea. Liverpool at home to Sheffield United. Here's a question. Why don't kids support Man United anymore?
I mean, the obvious answer is they haven't been that good in the last 10 years.
But I think all of us were stunned when we learned this information pre-pod.
I do a lot of talks and whatnot in primary schools and secondary schools around Manchester now. And, they're very much Mr. Anka, what football team do you support? And I tell them I support Manchester United, and some of them give it the old fist pump, and other ones are... one child was quite simply baffled that I would support Manchester United.
Oh, you got the weird silence.
Yeah. So the most recent talk I did was in Wythenshawe, and I would say it is now going to a sort of 60... Well, in that primary school, the classroom was, I'd say, 65% Manchester City fans. To which I then asked, who are your favourite player? And I was surprised because it was Foden far and above Haaland.
Right.
Of course, you're in Wythenshawe, local lad, academy element, I think. But yeah, the cultural cut through of City is happening now.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big changes that I saw visibly walking around Manchester last season was, I mean, traditionally or in the past, City fans walking around town in their kits would have their names on the back, or you'd see the middle-aged man with dad on the back, or they'd be wearing their retro kits. Whereas last season was the first season where I overwhelmingly saw more current City tops with Haaland on the back or with Alvarez on the back. And this happened to Chelsea around about 2012, where for a very, very long time during the Abramovich years, the overwhelming popular shirt printed on the back was Dad or Kevin or whatnot. And then you got to around about 2011, 2012, and Drogba started going up the charts and Torres started going up the charts. And this is what happens when your club goes from being a local or a national renown to getting to that international renown. And that's, I think, when the next generation or the children begin to shift.
Also, when you're on holiday somewhere and, the the market stall of shirts is just
Yes,
up. And
yes.
Man City have now achieved dominance of that.
I'm seeing Man City shirts when I'm on holiday, counterfeit Man City shirts where I used to only see Barcelona, Juventus, Manchester United.
In that animated kind of bar chart of names on the back of shirts, who do you think currently would be... Are we in Dad and Kevin territory for Man United?
Not yet, but I think you are beginning to see Adidas release more retro United kits, which you talk to Arsenal fans about this as well. When your kit manufacturer is making more, remember when you were good?
Yeah, Arsenal had a spell before Arteta when they'd gone to Adidas and it was like they'd have another defeat and it would bring out a new
retro range.
All right, England would do that as well. No, let's play in red, everyone. Remember?
Yeah. So United have released what I think was a very nice Stone Roses kit, and they've got a nice little new order range. So those two have just come out this season.
In what way is it new orders? It got like big roses on it or something, or what?
New order is the Blue Monday release, so it's the symbol there, and they look very nice, but also it's very much remember the 90s. Remember when Manchester United were good.
Why would you celebrate Blue Monday, which surely is going to call to mind the other?
Very good question.
Anyway,
But you get you also get the flip side to it, which is there's a lot of people now in their sort of 30s or 40s who are Blackburn Rovers fans who are like,
are there?
Are you really from Lancashire, or did you mysteriously enjoy the mid-90s?
Who are these people who are Blackburn Rovers
they're
fans?
around. They're around. Yeah.
This office is predominantly populated by Arsenal and Spurs fans, I would suggest. Yeah.
They get around.
They do, don't they? In Brazil, Natalie, who's the number one Premier League team?
It varies. We had a long spell of Chelsea because there were a lot of Brazilians playing here at Chelsea at a very victorious time, and I think now it's more Liverpool.
Okay. Is it?
Yes, because of the Brazilians, and also because I think what I hear from Brazilian fans is like they really relate to Liverpool in terms of this more emotional, passionate side, and
means more.
Yes, South Americans, we just go for the emotions.
This means more.
Man United, anyway, remember them? They're playing Liverpool this weekend. Of course, they did that the other week and won famously. They followed that up with a performance. Colin Miller of this parish described as hopeless a performance as any Premier League side has served up all season.
That's a bit
against
mean.
Brentford last weekend. They didn't lose 4-0, Carl.
They
That's
didn't
the plus.
4-0. They didn't lose 4-0. And I've had 2 or 3 United fans say the Brentford draw was one of the worst performances this season.
Right.
Better than the Brentford game last season.
To which I've watched a lot of Manchester United. And it's not even top 3 worst.
Is it not? Which was the worst then?
In my eyes.
What was the worst? Or are you keeping that space free for Sunday's clash with Liverpool?
No, I don't think Sunday's clash is going to be horrendous. I do think one of the key problems with Manchester United is this: the result matters more than anything else. And Erik ten Hag was asked about this after the Brentford game: of are you concerned about how many shots you're conceding? He was like, well, no, we defend our penalty area very, very well, and we are. It's
Sean Dyche's Burnley, isn't it?
Very much Sean Dyche's Burnley, which is by design in that they're best at defending in and around their penalty area, so they concede a lot of space in midfield. And that's that.
The one ban they should be on is block party.
Indeed.
So we shouldn't be worried about the fact that they are conceding.
Ten Hag said he's not worried about this.
Are you worried about it?
I did ask Ten Hag if... I said, prior to the Brentford game, I said, your intention at the start of the season was to turn United into the best transition team in the world. Is that still the case? And he said, well, we went through a process and we have to be aware when games end up like a tennis match. And he said, if we want tennis, we go to Wimbledon. But because of the way United are set up and because of his belief that this is the best way to defend based on the players he has available to him, you are going to have, Chelsea are most likely going to have 15 shots on Manchester United's goal tonight, being Thursday. Liverpool will have 15 shots.
50?
1-5.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them.
I mean, it's an exciting futuristic experiment because the only 2 teams to concede 30 or more shots in a game twice this season are Sheffield United and Manchester United. And tonight Sheffield United go to Anfield, could happen. Manchester United go to Chelsea, could happen. So
the race is on.
It's very exciting.
That is exciting. The race is on. Excellent. Well, you talk about the players available to him. They won't include Lisandro Martinez or Victor Lindelof, who are going to be sidelined for a while. So it's a patched up Man United side tonight and against Liverpool. Any chance that United can pull out a result the way they did in the FA Cup in that memorable 4-3?
Yeah, of course there's a chance. So the reason Ten Hag has gone to this estimation is he believes the front press is very, very narrow. He doesn't believe the midfield has been decimated by injury. So if you turn games into this topsy-turvy counter-attack,
Right.
United will win more games than they lose because they just have better players than the majority of the league. And then you hope you have you're hoping that your team has a good shooting night and the other team has an off shooting night. You saw that in the FA Cup game. You could get a repeat of that again against Liverpool. Going to this Chelsea game on Thursday. Sorry, I keep talking about this as if hopefully all listeners will listen to what I'm saying before this game happens. When Chelsea have the ball in possession, that will be a 3-1-6 shape, and United will tend to be a 3-1-6 shape. So that will be a big basketball game of up and down and up and down and up and down. So,
and we saw on the opening day, Chelsea-Liverpool, that was a very up and down game. And
how did that one go?
1-1.
Right.
If you looked at Manchester City versus Arsenal and went, this is boring, I'm sick of games full of control, and then Ten Hag's United are the, I don't want to say antidote because it doesn't quite cure it.
Well, yeah,
but it's
Sunday
an
night we were
alternative.
hailing them, or they were being hailed by Tim Spears as the most entertaining team to watch, probably if you're not a Man United.
Oh yes, I've cut my hair down very low because if I grow it any further, you can see how many extra greys in my temple have come from watching United.
What do you think, Natalie?
Me?
Yeah, Man United. Can they? Because this is, I imagine, even though all the problems, this is the fixture that Arsenal and Man City are looking at and going, we need Liverpool to drop points
yes,
somewhere.
they
This
can
is
drop
the time.
points. Yes, no, definitely. No, I just find it very interesting to talk about Man United's midfield because they have talented players and we've heard about the transitions for quite a while. And when we were just following up on the progresses they've made throughout last season to this one, we were expecting to see that transitional side, and now you just, there's so much space. So much space, and I'm very curious to see how it's going to pan out in the weekend because Liverpool just really took advantage of all the space that they were giving out on that match. And Casemiro is back, but I know he's not on the highest regard.
So I'm interested. About what's the Brazilian perspective on Casemiro this season? Because there's been talk in England that his legs have gone.
Yeah.
And he's in a huge physical decline.
Yeah, I completely disagree with that,
Okay.
honestly. Yes, because Casemiro has never had a muscle injury in his career. It's the first time. And how can a player who was one of the most important players last season, from one season to the other, just, oh no, his legs are out? And Man United, they keep having these injuries and some muscle injuries as well. And it's something you really need to be careful with. I know Casemiro is very professional in terms of taking care of himself and the intensity of training. And
So Casemiro in the 9 seasons previous to this had missed 31 club games due to injury.
Yeah.
Whereas this season alone he's missed 19. He's just turned 32, but he's got a lot of miles on the clock. These deep quarter-final Champions League runs with Real Madrid every single season. But this is a surprise.
I just feel that something is off in terms of you. Of course, all clubs are suffering with injuries. When you have a considerable amount of muscle injuries, you really need to watch what's happening. Of course, there were injuries that weren't related to that, but with Casemiro, because I don't know, Brazilians, they just really trust him because he's always been such a top professional and he's so highly rated in the national team. The other day, a person asked me, "Oh, he still gets capped for Brazil?" And I'm like, not
captain.
only that, he's the captain. Like he's highly regarded in Brazil because of his winning career and his professionalism. So I wouldn't rule him out.
Ten Hag was
not.
asked if he knew the reason behind this injury crisis, and he said he had an idea and it was being addressed. He was then asked, could you share that idea? And he simply said, no.
I was just going to ask what Ten Hag is like to talk to, because he doesn't come across as the warmest of individuals.
I'd say that's a pretty fair assessment. He's got a very stripped back style of communication, which, if you like things, it's very clear. Yeah, he uses the word clear a lot, which is a translation of the Dutch word duidelijk, which is the sort of Dutch colloquialism for "do you know what I mean?" So every time he says clear, that's sort of him translating duidelijk.
Duidelijk.
I like that.
So that's him going. So when he goes clear, that's him doing that.
Made a good save in the 2005 Champions League.
Duncan, you had a point you wanted to, or a question.
Well, just to Natalie's point about Newcastle earlier and to this discussion, I do think this season has probably seen managers play players over much more than any other. There's so many muscle injuries, so many. We've seen most teams have been decimated.
Red zone.
Yes, we are well in the red zone. And Carl will know this very well. I mean, the significance of this game, with Liverpool as it stands, inching closer to their 20th league title and all that counts for Old Trafford. It took United so long to overhaul Liverpool, and now it's getting close to maybe not being ahead of them. So this game, there's so much on this game.
Huge. I am hopefully going to write a piece before Sunday about how big viewership a Manchester United-Liverpool game could be if both teams were good at the same time. So if United were in third and Liverpool were in first, and it was a real title ramification, what could the viewership be? So I'm going to try and investigate that, because
it's the stuff of science fiction, Carl. Man United in a title race. Erik ten Hag has actually got a really good record at home to Liverpool. Well, really good. He's won 2 out of 2 visits during his time in charge. I'm just looking actually. So the other 2 games, Man City are at Crystal Palace, which we kind of labelled their bogey team, but I think most people are pretty confident City are going to get the result there. We'll see.
Yeah.
Arsenal are away at Brighton. Now, since Arteta became Arsenal manager, they've played Brighton 9 times. He's only had 4 wins, same amount that Brighton have had, and the other one was a draw. Against that, Arsenal are different. They hit different this season. And since the turn of the year, particularly so. In fact, they're away this weekend. In their away matches since 2024 got underway, they haven't trailed for a single minute yet. So that's how assured they've been on the road. Is that a simple fixture for them?
it has to be. If they want to win the title, it has to be a simple fixture. I think the way Arteta rested key personnel against Luton shows he's saving certain things.
Right. They've got Bayern, of course, after that, a couple of days after. Sorry, Natalie. Yeah.
I like this matchup, Arsenal-Brighton, because I think both teams can produce interest. So if you have Brighton at its best, as you mentioned before, like it can get really interesting.
Right.
And if you see the stats of the fixture, I think the previous fixture was very Arsenal dominated, but you can get really interesting, exciting game between both teams. And you mentioned Arsenal, Brighton, and you mentioned Man City, Palace. I think this is a very important part of the season because they're both playing Champions League next week.
Right.
So this is why we're seeing them rotate their players as well.
Big games as well. Bayern Munich for Arsenal, Real Madrid for Man City.
Yes, exactly. So it is big. It's a big weekend in terms of thinking about the rest of the season.
Can Roberto De Zerbi win Liverpool a title before he even takes up the job? It now looks like he's not taking up the job. But anyway.
I mean, the reverse fixture was one of the most impressive Arsenal performances of the season. They completely suppressed Brighton, and their press was great. I mean, Martinelli was really good in that game, and he's now back fit, and I imagine he will have a similar role on Saturday. But it is, Brighton did okay against Liverpool last weekend, so... But you never know with Brighton, do you?
That's the thing, yeah.
I mean, De Zerbi, a lot of managers get accused of overthinking it, but De Zerbi does actually overthink it.
It's such a weird kryptonite for a manager to have. And I've listened to many an episode of Liam sort of pulling his hair out, going, of all the things you're weak against, a mid-block counter-attacking team, it's the most ordinary weakness.
Yeah.
And here we are, right? It's not just the teams that play it as their plan A, but also teams that can effortlessly switch it as their plan B can hurt.
And Arsenal do have a lot of plans this season.
Many plans.
Also, possibly the game with the managers with the most rigid hair in the Premier League, De Zerbi and Arteta.
Is De Zerbi's hair particularly
Even if
rigid?
it's windy on the South Downs, I don't think we're seeing much movement up top.
Arteta, absolutely. Who else would be in that? Would David Moyes be in there?
Yeah, he's gone a bit wispier these days. I'd say.
In terms of product in here, I think Kevin De Bruyne is currently the industry standard.
It's weighing him down, I tell you. That's why his performances aren't quite as...
Hey, don't support a haircut for De Bruyne. He's totally pulling that off.
It's lovely. It's fine. It's feathered. It's coiffed. I enjoy it.
Well, looks like we've reached the end of the useful stuff about this weekend. So
He's got more hair than Jordan Shaqiri.
We'll be back late on Sunday, ay caramba, after the conclusion of Nottingham Forest Spurs, with our thoughts on what actually happens in those games. And a bit of a sing-song perhaps as well. Who knows? Who knows? For now, though, many, many thanks to Carl. Enjoy your trip to Stamford Bridge. Natalie, enjoy Fulham Newcastle at the weekend.
Would you say ciao now? Bella ciao?
Oh, that's
What?
nice.
Yeah,
You
okay.
would- I'm a bit shy, but you do it. And Duncan, Wembley. Wembley awaits.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Glory.
Best of luck.
Maybe.
Best of luck, you listener, with everything you're doing. And thanks as well to Rachel and Charlie in the booth. We're back Sunday late, probably early Monday for you. Hope you join us then. For now, from all of us here, it's goodbye. The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.